In the prestigious Pine Grove Academy, nestled in the rolling farmland of central Pennsylvania, lies one of the nation's finest boarding schools. Here, we see a young student by the name of Dexter Whitlam, a very intelligent student who enjoys learning about the many mysteries of the universe. This school is the perfect place for a guy like him. But of course, like every other school, there are others willing to make life difficult for those who seek for knowledge and a better life. Bullies. And Dexter has a few of his own. Kelly Thorndike, Wade Boddington III, and Todd Umbenar, the biggest annoyances in his life. Every day they like to mess with Dexter and do the usual bully tactics like hanging their victims by their underwear or dunking their heads in an unflushed toilet. Little by little, this begins to drive Dexter insane, filled with anger because he can't go a day without being bullied by those thugs. This time, they decided to beat him up and toss him in a trash can. While this happens, another student notices this and yells at them to leave him alone. They finally decide to leave, and she runs over to help him up. Her name is Ruthie, and she's a friend of Dexter's. He tells Ruthie that he's going to kill them, but she lets him know that he shouldn't let them get the best of him. And if it wasn't for their rich father's influence, then they'd never be allowed in. He agrees, but all they can do is try to destroy what they can't understand. But if they keep pushing him, then one day, he'll make them all pay. Later that night, Dexter seethes with rage as the litany of indignities he suffered at his tormentor's hands plays in his mind. As much as he wants to forget about it and focus on his studies, he can't ignore every tormented experience he's had to put up with. All because of these three students who want to impress the ladies and make themselves look superior. He thinks about doing something about it, but in the end, it ultimately leads to actions that come from their future positions. Because he knows that he can be a revered scientific genius, and surely those thugs will exhaust the fortune of their families and be forced to crawl and beg for his help. All he has to do is be patient, till that day comes. But one night, he decides to sneak out of his dormitory and go investigate a warehouse district. The bustle of daytime commerce has given way to a deathly silence, broken only by the skittering of rats. Driven from the dorms by Kelly and his crew one night, Dexter ran until he collapsed from exhaustion behind the very dumpster which he now hides in. Then, as now, he watched in awe as delivery men stealthily carted scientific equipment into a warehouse. The strange machinery he saw unloaded that night sparked his curiosity. He doesn't get a chance to investigate for now, but after returning to this spot for many nights, he finally gets a chance and he goes for it. As he looks around, he's quite impressed with what they've been keeping in this facility. Dexter mentions that it looks like a biological research facility, and soon he discovers something he's never seen before, a tyrant. But he isn't scared of it, he's fascinated by it, and he can already tell that it's some sort of genetic code manipulation leading to massive mutation. Dexter knows that it can do some serious damage. He then notices that there's a vial with a green substance, and he is sure that it must be part of the process that led to the host's mutation. But after realizing this, the two umbrella workers show up and notice that someone is trespassing, so they attempt to go after him but decide to give up on chasing the kid because it doesn't look like he took anything or even touched anything. Dexter got away, and the two umbrella workers decide not to tell their boss because it could get them fired. So they pretend that nothing happened and continue working. But as you can see, one thing did go missing: the vial. The next day we see Dexter trying to figure out what is in the vial that he took, but also if he can replicate it to create a creature like the one he saw in the warehouse. With that kind of power, he can get rid of Kelly, Wade, and Todd. But as he says their names, they appear to his surprise with more intimidation. They only heard that he said their names and think that he's thinking of doing something to fight back. They decide to pick on him some more and go as far as to step on his glasses. But luckily Ruthie shows up and hits Kelly on the back of the head with her calculus book. She tells him to leave Dexter alone and he's never done anything to them. But he retaliates by striking her and walking away with his buddies. Dexter picks up his broken glasses and tells them that he's had it. They're dead, and he's gonna rip their hearts out. Dexter helps Ruthie get up and he tells her that they're gonna pay for this. We are then shown that at the West Side warehouse, the two umbrella workers are in trouble for not notifying their superiors about a boy sneaking into the warehouse and stealing something extremely valuable. Their boss tells them that a G virus sample is missing, and perhaps he should use them as test subjects of their new experiment on how long one can live when skinned alive. He then informs Mr. Venk that perhaps it's time for some not so gentle persuasion. Aside from this umbrella superior, we don't know who Mr. Venk is either, but from the looks of it, he acts as the boss's right-hand man, and he will do as he's ordered without any hesitation. The security guard Earl tells them that they weren't trying to cover anything up, but seeing as they didn't report what happened makes them appear suspicious. Earl lets them know that they only saw what looked like a teenager running out of the warehouse. They just thought that he was looking for a thrill, and they don't know about any of this scientific stuff they're unloading. By now, we get a look at the superior and Mr. Venk, and now that they know it's a teenager that stole the vial, they know where to look at. The school's nearby. The superior thanks the two men for their information and then orders Mr. Venk to kill them. We then get to see what Dexter is doing at his dormitory, and it appears that he can no longer take any of the abuse he's been dealing with every day, and he decides to inject himself with the vial. He instantly begins mutating, and he begins to search for the bullies that torment him on a daily basis. His first target, Wade Boddington. Wade is at the Topahakan field house in the showers. A friend of his starts heading out and lets Wade know that they had a good practice, but to make sure to lock up when he leaves, letting us know that he's going to be in there by himself. As he admires his physique and appearance, someone appears from behind the shower mist. Dexter reveals himself to Wade, and with one glance at his appearance, the disturbing look on Dexter's mutated appearance is enough to scare anyone to death. Wade cries out for help and tries to run away, but before he can even take the first step, Dexter pierces his claws right through Wade's chest, taking his life before he could even comprehend what just happened. Dexter says,
"One down."
And he moves on to the next bully, Todd Ombrenar. Todd is at the Wren Athletic Dormitory on his way to the vending machines while singing a Backstreet Boys song. As he walks up to the vending machines, he can't decide on what to get, but ultimately settles for a Hershey's knockoff. As he inserts the dollar bill, you can see that Dexter has arrived, and any second now, he will do what he's been dying to accomplish. Todd takes a bite of his snack bar, and once he turns around, Dexter appears right in front of him and says,
"Time to die, Todd."
Dexter disposes of another bully, and then proceeds to find the last one, Kelly Thorndike. At the boys' dormitory, we see that the Umbrella Superior and Mr. Venk are searching through Dexter's room, and the Superior says that it appears that their search is at an end. The notes he found indicate that their young thief Dexter Whitlam fancies himself as something of a science prodigy, and his research is quite amazing. He then picks up an empty vial and notices that there is a hint of human blood in the solution, so he must have injected himself with it, and now they must take him down. While the Superior came to that conclusion, Ruthie was observing them from behind the door as it wasn't fully closed, but now she knows that two men are after him and they intend to hunt him down. We then see that Kelly is at the Ritzheimer Gymnasium hitting up the batting cages, and as he prepares to hit another ball, his bat gets shattered, and after acknowledging this, he turns around and sees the mutated Dexter ready to kill the last person that wouldn't go a day without making his life a living hell. With a grotesque smile on his face, Dexter says,
"Payback time, Thorndike."
Kelly replies to "Stay away, freak," and Dexter slashes Kelly on the chest, not killing him, but just enough to make him suffer. As he proceeds to finish him off, Ruthie shows up and tries to reason with Dexter. She tells him that he's gotta stop. She doesn't know what happened to him, but there are men after him, and he shouldn't kill Kelly, even if he deserves it. Kelly begs for mercy and tells him that his dad will pay anything if he doesn't kill him. Just name the price. Dexter replies,
"Revenge."
and he takes the life of the last bully that messed with him. Ruthie feels despondent after seeing what Dexter has become, and he approaches her saying,
"More blood."
but suddenly he is shot with bolts of electricity and taken down by Mr. Vank. They found the mutated Dexter and shot him down. Ruthie cries next to Dexter and asks, what have they done? Everything goes dark, and we then see that Dexter is waking up, and he sees the Umbrella Superior and Mr. Vank. The Umbrella Superior tells him, "Do not try to speak, young Whitlam. That's right, we know your name, and quite a bit more. You have proven yourself to be a scientific prodigy, unlocking the secret of the G-Virus in a matter of hours, and that killing spree of yours, quite nasty. It will take some time for you to recover from the effects of the virus, but when you do, my employers at Umbrella have prepared to offer you unlimited resources to pursue our unique research. A mind like yours comes along once in a generation. At Umbrella, you can own your intellect free from the fetters of so-called ethical behavior. We believe it will be an absolutely perfect environment for you. Welcome." Dexter has no words to say, but that grin on his face simply defines his answer to this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that is how this story ends. This story was made by Chris Oprisco. I like that here we get to see what happened if a student that constantly gets bullied ends up getting a hold of a virus capable of mutating you into a deadly creature. I thought he was gonna inject it on one of the bullies and have that guy kill off his own friends and eventually get gunned down by police officers or Umbrella soldiers. But injecting it into his own body? He was really desperate for revenge. William Birkin would have loved to have met this kid for sure. There is one question I have with this story though. Why was there a tyrant with the G-Virus vial right next to it? The tyrants weren't created with the G-Virus. The tyrants were made with the Epsilon strain, which is a T-Virus strain, not the G-Virus. This was the same problem with the previous Resident Evil story, which was the one about Danger Island, where those who were attacked by lickers ended up being infected with the G-Virus. However, that was probably canon before this series expanded. But now that it has, the lickers are created by a T-Virus strain that descended through the VAC process. The story of Danger Island was featured in the comic book of Resident Evil No. 3, which came out in fall of 1998. In 1998, the only installments of Resident Evil that were released were Resident Evil 1, the Director's Cut Edition, and Resident Evil 2. No spin-offs yet, and no Nemesis either. Most creature formations weren't established until later installments, so it's likely that the artists behind the Resident Evil comic book stories had to work with what they had and improvise. And I think they did a good job with this one. This is the first time we see a kid inject himself with a virus, but most shockingly the G-Virus, and actually get help from Umbrella, as well as getting special treatment to be reverted back to normal. No one ever gets that kind of treatment from Umbrella, so Dexter Whitlam must have in fact been a scientific prodigy. It's a shame that he was never featured in any of the Resident Evil games after Resident Evil 3 and Code Veronica, as he would have been grown up by now, and he could become a very good antagonist to the story. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, please leave a like, share with others, and if you want to see more videos like these, subscribe to this channel. You'll find more than just Resident Evil content like Dragon Ball, Gantz, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, and more. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr to find out when the next video comes out and whatever random posts I make. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.